The whole point of my videos is to spread wisdom, but the thing with wisdom is that you cannot attain wisdom if you're not able to apply the knowledge that you have gained. Once that knowledge is able to be applicable, then it will become wisdom. You get me? Because wisdom without application is simply just awareness, and awareness with nothing changing is simply just bullshit. So what I don't want to do is bullshit with you guys. Like, I don't want you guys to bullshit. It's like my uncle's been telling me that for like a week, bro. No bullshitting. So what I want you guys to do is to genuinely make notes and apply this to your life, or else there's no point in watching this video. I do not want my bro, do not treat this video like every other self-improvement video that you watch. You just simply sit down because you have a simple burst of energy, and then you probably make a couple of notes or two, and then you get bored, and then you go watch TV or like beat your meat or some bullshit, and then forget about it in the next couple of days. I don't want you guys to treat this video the way you do other videos. I want you guys to genuinely use this information that I'm about to tell you. Write down notes. This is not a lot of information to take down. It's not even hard concepts to grasp, which is why I need you guys to genuinely make notes on every single thing. It's not even that many notes. You guys genuinely take out the notebook and apply this to your life. You get me? Because there's no point in watching this video if you're not going to apply it at all. You're simply just wasting your time. Alright, so now that we have that out the way, let's get into the first thing that I'd like to discuss when it comes to basically the main point of the video that I'm going to want to cover in this video is manifesting your desired reality. Okay, I know when you guys think manifestation, you think about some boohoo, all this like spiritual girl shit with the stones and shit, but like I would just like to specify that at the end of the day, spirituality is what you make it. If you truly believe this is a bunch of bullshit, then I believe you're correct, bro. If you truly believe that this is a bunch of bullshit, then you're correct. The man who says he cannot is correct. The man who says he can is also correct. Well, let me give you just a quick rundown on what spirituality is, because I know a lot of people might be a little bit skeptical on this, especially since spirituality can be negative in some senses. Spirituality in many ways can even be used for witchcraft. Like, a lot of people forget that witchcraft is a form of spirituality. However, that is not the type of bullshit that I am going to sort of put into you. The whole witchcraft thing, we can talk about that some other day, but that's just a whole bunch of bullshit. What I want to specify to you is that spirituality is not meant to make your life better. Spirituality is not meant to make you that one dude that's like eating acai bowls with baggy jeans with the stones and like the earthy gold girls and like things of that nature. Spirituality is simply meant to shift your perspective on life. It's simply meant to shift the way you view yourself, people, and just life in general. With that being said, you honestly shouldn't have a hard time believing this shit, because it will not benefit or disbenefit you in any way, if that's even a word. So with our first thing is understanding the three planes of existence, because if you're not able to understand this, this is basically almost the first step of understanding how manifestation works. If you're not able to understand these three planes, then it's a death sentence, bro. You're chopped. So this is reality. In order for you to manifest your desired reality, you need to use all of these three planes to 100%. Think about these three planes as the three pillars of manifestation. If one pillar is not there, then the whole thing is going to collapse and fall down, which is why it is very important to sort of use all of them to the full extent. Think of these pillars as 33.33%. If you only focus on one pillar, that is essentially a death sentence, because you're only manifesting 33.33% of your desired reality. You're only manifesting 33.33% of what you can truly manifest, which is 100%. So there are three planes of existence: mental, physical, and spiritual. Let's get into mental. So the mental is the realm of cause. The The mental plane has no relation to time, which is something of the physical. This is very important. The mental plane is the womb of reality. Basically, what that means is that everything that has ever existed in life first needs to exist vibrationally. You get me? In order for it to exist physically, it must first exist vibrationally. So now, how, bro? My laptop is about to fucking. I'm actually gonna burst, bro. So now, how does that relate to the womb of reality? Because it may have just sounded like I said a whole bunch of bullshit. The womb of reality. So it must first exist mentally in order for the world to sort of prove that to you in reality. So everything is. So think about the mental plane as immaterialized thoughts and ideas. It first starts off as a thought, and then it sort of manifest into something real. So every single idea, every single thing, things like phones, laptops, houses, they first developed in the mental. The mental is almost the mother of creation. You first think of it mentally in order for it to manifest physically. Hence why I say it first needs to exist vibrationally in order for it to exist physically. Vibrationally is a term that I will be getting soon into the video. Just tap in. So now that we have that out of the way, let's get into the physical plane. So the physical plane is basically everything we have ever known, or in other words, it's just reality. The world we live in, the things we see, things of that nature, and all that. But then it's important to understand that reality is an illusion. Reality is an illusion. Look at my boy. Nah, this is not my boy. That is not my boy. Look at my look at reality. Fuck. Look at Albert Einstein, like the smart niggas. Like, reality is merely an illusion. If the smart people are saying it, bro, he has to be right. You know what I'm saying? All of the smart philosophers, scientists always say that reality is an illusion. But then what does that mean? When I say reality is an illusion, I don't mean that it's like Mysterio from Spider-Man. I don't mean it's like some wishy shit. I mean, illusion is basically a fancy way of saying it's a trap. If you rely too much on it, then you're not going to manifest your desired reality. And why is that? Testing. My power just cut, so I just went out and took a walk, but let's get back into it nonetheless. So why is it that when you focus on the physical plane too much, we already specified that if you focus too much on one plane, then you use 33.33% of what you can actually materialize. You're actually supposed to use all of them so you can manifest your full 100%. But then the reasons why people sort of gravitate more to the physical plane, the reasons why people gravitate more towards a single plane, because what's crazy and sad is that 98% of people only use one plane of existence. 98% of people are only using one pillar, which means it's all just going to collapse. Like, it's all a death sentence. You get what I'm saying? And then I will get into that very soon. Let's just look at the spiritual plane quickly, because all of these planes are all none of them are less important than the other. Just because more people focus on one doesn't mean that the other is more important. In fact, thinking that one is more important is the reason that you are on this 33.33%. But then the spiritual plane, let's get into that. The spiritual plane is the plane that connects reality to the higher power, aka God. We are all connected. We are all one. The paint bucket theory. Okay, the paint bucket theory, I'm not going to get too much into that. That is my own theory that I made by myself. You will not hear that at any other, place, bruh. Or at least that's how I feel. But, as, since the mental plane exists, I am willing to acknowledge that maybe somebody has said something along the lines of my paint bucket theory, because, immaterialized thoughts, some people may even have the same idea, but then they probably didn't say it as, they're probably not going to say it as better as I am. In fact, I'm going to make a whole video about this. So But then this is for another day, because I want to focus more on this diagram rather than that thing. We just need to know that the spiritual plane is the plane that connects reality to the higher power. You receive it spiritually so it can manifest. you know Spiritual and mental are almost interlinked. They're almost the same thing, or at least that's what I think. You guys can double check me on that shit. Although metaphysicians. Why am I acting like I don't know how to speak English? Mm. Okay, so now let's get into the reason why most people sort of focus on one pillar, and I wanna tune in onto the physical plane. See, the reason we say it's an illusion is because no matter how much work you do, no matter how hard you work, you are not guaranteed success. No matter how much effort you put into these pillars at once, you are not guaranteed success. The physical plane, there are people working their ass off. There's people breaking their backs every single day. My collar blue, but my niggas red. I'm being working like. There's people out here like rednecks, bro, like burning in the sun, and they're getting paid minimum wage. They were getting paid pennies. Just because you work hard does not guarantee that you will be successful. Just because you put in the effort, just because you put in the sweat and the labor, does not mean that you'll be guaranteed success. I think at best, that doesn't mean that people that focus on one plane are always, obviously I feel like there always is exceptions. However, I feel like at most you probably, if we're gonna use money in the equation, I think at most you will sort of earn a middle income. I think that's, at most you can get with physical work, because trust me, every single pillar is important. Every single pillar at least will get you somewhere. It's doing something right, but it's not enough. At the end of the day, you're still a death sentence. You're still not going to make it. But then that is why we need to be careful. Like, this is where most people are. Most people are focusing on the physical. They think that if they just keep putting in the effort, nothing is going to change. Something is going to change. My bad. Now let's get into the mental side of things. This is usually where all like the witch doctors and like, yeah, this is, yeah, you can put the witch doctors in here, but I also want to focus on the girls with the rocks and stones and shit. Like, this is the mental plane. This is where people sit down and like wish for things to happen to them. They don't take any action. They think that if they just sit down, see a shooting star, just wish on it, it's going to change. That doesn't mean don't wish on a shooting star. Like, I am a little bit superstitious myself. Like, I'll be wishing at like shooting stars and shit. But like, that is not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that this is more focused on I wish. It's more focused on hope. Hope is not a strategy. Hope is not a that's some other shit my uncle tells me. Hope is not a strategy. You cannot keep hoping. However, hope does indicate to yourself that you have faith. Hope is the indication of faith, which is something you do need in order to manifest your desired reality. So just because leaning on one too much may have its negative, does not mean that it is any less important. Every single thing is important. I do not want you guys to associate these physical planes as something negative. You need everything. All of this is important. You need to hope, you need to wish, but then just to a certain extent, you don't do it. You do not put everything. You don't put like your 100% in that. So now let's get into the spiritual plane. So examples of how people will sort of just put all the buckets in the spiritual plane is mostly religious. People will go to church every single Sunday, but nothing will change. It's some nigger religions. And honestly, that's not even throwing shots at like religion. Like, religion is not a bad thing at all. Like, it's okay to praise God. In fact, I feel like that's a good thing. I feel like it's better for us as people to at least have some type of faith, or at least have some type of moral compass, or something like that. But then I feel like where people go wrong is that they sort of limit themselves by, in many cases saying some stuff like, if God allows it, if God this and that, a lot of people don't realize about God is that God is the infinite. God has more than enough. God will give you more than enough. God will bless you with abundance. So now when you say things like, if God allows it, what are you trying to say? If God allows it, God can allow it. In fact, you can allow it, because in a way you are God. However, that is a religious talk, and I'm not trying to do that today. I'm not trying to do that at all. So as long as you guys get the main point on how people sort of focus all of the energy into one of these single planes, which in turn is just gonna like it's just gonna break everything down, bro. And like sad, like I just said, 98% of people are only using this one plane. Okay, so now let's get into common beliefs of people who are sort of struggling in these type of planes. So we're gonna go common beliefs, and then common beliefs right here, I bet. So I think we should start at the bottom. Yeah, let's start at the bottom. Testing. I hope my shit's doing shit. So common beliefs. These people are overly logical and have objective beliefs. What this means is that the beliefs are very worldly. An objective belief is sometimes known as a fact, and because it's a fact, most people will believe in it. And if most people believe in it, then people will not, if most people believe in it, then it will create a safe space for people, because that is just how people have evolved. People have learned to evolve in groups. That is where people were most safe. If you were in the flipping like jungle times, bro, with no group, that's like you destined for death, like you're going to die. So obviously people will gravitate towards more groups, almost a sheep mentality type of thing. And it's completely normal. Like, what human wants to be alone? If you're saying I'm an introvert, I don't want to be, every human wants to be with people. Every person craves human connection, or at least something along those lines to a degree. But then that's the problem with overly logical and objective thinking. Since most people believe it, you're more likely to believe it in a way. You get what I'm saying? And it is harder to sort of break away from it, because it does affect your perception, because it solidifies a specific degree of truth, since you see it from many different people. Oh, you need to go to college, you need to get a degree, that is the only way to be successful. However, when you think from a more subjective place, you think more from the heart, you think more from the God mind. And the God mind is basically, I would describe it as your intuition, what you truly desire and how you truly feel. You are not, when you think subjective, you're less prone to allowing people's subjective thoughts. There's less limitation when you think subjectively. There is a sense of optimism. And let's go to these notes real quick. Now we're getting to the real shit. If you guys saw, like I did redact some of my shit. You guys are just not ready for that. But then these notes, you guys can see them. I don't mind. So the importance of subjective attention. So just subjective attention has the ability to change your life for the better when it is controlled. If you continuously let external distractions dominate your attention, achieving this control becomes difficult. The energy of procrastination, what did I say? Prolonging your own success, not promise. So I don't know what I was cooking up over there. So this is what I want to focus on. If you continuously let external distractions dominate your attention, achieving this control becomes difficult. If you constantly let external attention, an example of this could be people saying, no, bro, just put in the hard work, just work hard, keep working hard, and you'll be okay. Keep working hard. See, this is external attention. People are telling you what to do with your life, and just do this, go to school, do that and that, go to school. You need to, listen, at the end of the day, in most cases, it can be seen as hate for people. Some people will genuinely try and drag you down when they sort of give their objective views on your subjective way of thinking. Some people will genuinely try and drag you down to their frequency. Not only will people do that, your old frequency will do that, because at the end of the day, your frequency is also trying to live. Your frequency is an entity. It's trying to live and breathe. It's nothing personal at the end of the day. I'm just like, these beliefs, they just want to be at the top too. They just want to be materialized. So at the end of the day, it can be seen as hating, but at the same time, it can even come from loved ones. People putting these subjective beliefs. Let's just say you have a plan for your life, you want to do something, you have different passions. Some loved ones will tell you, no, this is the better path. Do this, do that, do that. In a way, it is coming from the heart. It is coming from a place of love. So that doesn't justify, the subjective way of thinking. It's just very important to sort of catch those different moments, and that doesn't mean that just because you learn this information that you can be arrogant and sort of not listen to people. I still listen to people, even though I know. You see, I still acknowledge people. Acknowledging and doing what people say is not necessarily the same thing. When I acknowledge you, I acknowledge you from a place of, I try and see the place where you're coming from. And that's what you need to do. Do not dismiss them and be arrogant. Just acknowledge what they say. That doesn't mean that it should affect your frequency, because once you reach this frequency, the map of consciousness, once you reach your spiritual paradigm, you are you're in a place of enlightenment, peace, joy. Whatever people down here say will not affect you, because you have already detached from those feelings. Detaching and separating is two completely different things. Just because you detach does not mean that you will not experience these type of feelings. Detaching is simply just not allowing it to affect you emotionally and internally, things of that nature. Separating is something we do not want to fall into. Separating is a term that you shouldn't use to determine, to sort of define yourself, because when you separate yourself, especially upon learning this type of spiritual knowledge, you leave yourself open for a lot of, how do I say this, egotistical shit. Ego is not bad, but then an inflated ego is bad. You leave yourself open to gain an inflated ego, which is something that you do not want, because you're literally just you're worse than these people, bro. Like if like you're dead as worse than these people. But then so do not see it as separation, see it as detachment. Detachment still means that you can still experience this. It's just how it affects you in the long term, or how it affects you in the moment. Let's see. Okay, so what other beliefs do these people have? Fuck you, I do what I want, and subjective thinking. Subjective thinking, as we just talked about, the importance of subjective thinking. But the thing about this, as I said at the beginning of my video, you guys can watch all the videos you want to in the world. You guys can watch all the videos, make all the notes. If you don't apply this shit to your life, it's going to be nothing. You guys are just gonna be aware. You guys are gonna be like feminists, bro. You like, spread awareness, man, spread awareness. But like nothing changes, bro. Like nothing changes. Like this is why, bro. Like if nothing's going to change, then just keep it to yourself, bro. I think I choose bliss. I choose ignorance. You know what they say, ignorance is bliss. If you are not going to use this, then choose ignorance. Just do not learn it at all if you know you're not going to choose this shit. So this is why it's important to practice daily control. You're not going to be, actually it is a light bulb. It is a light bulb switch. You find yourself at your lowest moment, you be like, I'm changing. All right, and that's how it should be. But then obviously, since some people find themselves catching up in cycles, they go from one place and then they go right back to the other, which is a topic I will discuss in my other videos, but let's just stay on topic for now. So attention is important. Where you put your attention is important. If you're putting your attention in porn and all that type of bullshit, it's going to reflect in your life. It's going to fuck you up. Your skin's going to be bad. You're going to feel tired. You're not going to want to do anything. And then since you feel tired, you're gonna be like, oh no, I'll just do it tomorrow. But then you beat your meat again, and then the cycle just continues. It's where you put your attention. you know I In the book Atomic Habits, there's a section that talks about practicing daily control. I recommend that, now we're doing something practical. I recommend that you sort of go on your phone. People have phones. Like, phones can either make or break you. Like, that as they can make or break you. I don't think phones are a bad thing. Phones, I feel like phones are actually one of the most powerful. This thing right here is one of the most powerful devices that you can have in your control, because you can literally look for all this information. See, all this information that I'm giving right now, I learned this shit from my phone, bruh. I learned this shit from my phone. It's not even a lot of information, but then I have so much to say because of how interesting this shit is. Find something you enjoy and genuinely do it. And if not, you can start off slow, because I know some people genuinely just haven't really found their interest. They don't know what speaks to them because they've been thinking objectively. They've been thinking what everybody else is thinking. Go to school, it's that the same path as everybody else. So now, once you're able to diverge and find your own pathway, you will be able to sort of take your attention and then make your own habits, and sort of create the desired reality that you would want for yourself. When I say desire, your desired reality doesn't even need to be big. You can genuinely just want a normal life. Like, you can genuinely just want to be normal, have kids, this and the third. That is genuinely beautiful. That is genuinely one of the things. And I will get into the material things of this. This is gonna be quite a we're gonna be a video right here, bro. It's gonna be a video, and I want you guys to make notes, bro. I want you guys to make notes. Make a daily effort to withdraw from the external world. Withdraw from specific external desires and build a long-term. Make a effort to withdraw from the external world. As we said again, the external is an illusion. The external is an illusion. The external is an illusion. Make daily efforts to withdraw from the external world. Like I said, this can either make or break you. If you spend too much time on this procrastinating and watching porn and doing shit, that is you feeding that is you trying to fill a void, a internal void, with something external. That is you trying to fill something spiritual with something external. Material things will never, material things will never better your life. Material things will not do anything for you. It has to start inside. So withdraw from specific external things, like specific needs, specific cravings. Withdraw from that, and then build a habit of continuously doing that. You start with small things, so you prove to your mind that you can do it. Because your perception, do I have a note on this? Perception is directly interconnected to your projection of reality. Your perception is directly interconnected to your projection of reality. Say this with me. This is a bar. Write this shit down, nigga. Perception is directly interconnected to your projected reality. So if your perception is that, yes, I'm the boss of myself, if that's your perception, then your projection of reality, the things around you, they will reflect that. The world will prove it to you. If you tell yourself that I have more than enough, I am living in abundance, then what will the world do? The world will simply prove it to you. The world will give you the feeling. You first need to create the feeling internally in order for the feeling to exist externally, outside of that. But what most people do is that they believe that in order to feel it internally, they must first feel it externally, which is honestly one of the things that is holding most people back. And again, this brings me to the physical plane. Like, this shit right here is the most dangerous, but I won't lie, because people think the physical plane determines how they feel in the mental plane. In order for them to be happy, they must be happy outside. They want to find happy from external things. Like, let's read this shit one more time. Let's understand this, because do not watch this video and you know what I'm saying. Make a daily effort to withdraw from external things. You need to withdraw from external things. External things should not determine whether you feel secure in yourself or not. If external things, how many bitches you have in your phone, how much money you have, how much how if those things determine how you feel about yourself internally, you're doing something completely wrong. You are no better than these people. If that is, in fact, that is what these people are struggling with. If external things determine how you feel internally, then you are doing something wrong. Am I recording? Am I recording? Yes, I am. If internal things determine how you feel, then you are doing something wrong. Let me double check. I bet. Uh, Change does not happen overnight. That's what he said. You need to persevere. You need to have that never give up type of mentality. And do not view this thing as hard, bro. Do not view changing your reality as hard, bro. Like I said, perception is directly interconnected to your reality. If you perceive something to be not hard, then what will happen? Reality will prove that to you. Reality will prove that it is not hard. It's like playing FIFA. If playing FIFA with the boys, you already know you're gonna smack the boys, right? Because you already know this. Oh, pause. Because you already know playing FIFA is not hard. Take that same perception, take that same wavelength, and apply it to your life. Apply it to your life. Apply it to anything you want to do. Let's just say you have an upcoming test. Apply that to the test. This test is not hard. It's like playing FIFA. It's like playing in the park. Bread and butter. As the flipping UK niggas say, bread and butter. Like, it's basics, bro. And once you are able to perceive it like that, your reality will project that to you. There's literally no reason to stress, bro. Stress can only go downhill from there. A perception of stress will never project a positive reality. This is why some of the best people, they stay calm in the craziest situations, bro. Like, I'm telling you right now, if I was LeBron 3-1 down to the Warriors, bro, I'm telling you right now, that stress would be crazy. I'd be like, there's no way. Some people be like, there's no way I'm going to win. Listen, their perception is directly perception, and this whole diagram is basically the same thing. Life is hard. This and that. If that's how you feel at the moment, reality will prove it to you. If that's your perception, let me link this. You know what I like about this, right? In me making these videos and genuinely explaining it to people, it's almost a form of active recall, which is basically another form of studying. And with that, not only do I benefit from it because it basically reinforces the knowledge that I've made. It also it also allows me to sort of refine my notes, because these notes will forever be changing. These notes are not final. These notes are definitely not final. In fact, I have a whole notebook that needs to be illustrated visually. I consider myself as a visual learner, so I think me making this channel is honestly gonna help a lot of people like me. Sitting in class for 6 hours just doing some bullshit like that never really worked for me. But yeah, I see this whole thing as perception, to be honest. Let's call this perception. Let's call this overall perception. Yeah, I'm gonna call this overall perception. Doesn't want a middle. Okay. Overall perception. Let me copy this. Yeah. Overall perception. If this is your overall perception on life, then reality will simply just prove it to you. You get me? Reality has no filter, bro. The real world has no filter. If you think you're a bitch, you're gonna be a bitch. I promise you, bro. Oh my goodness, bro. Everything starts with your emotional state. I'm telling you right now, everything starts with the emotional state. If you feel guilty, your view of life is just going to be evil. Everything is just going to be bad, bro. If you feel apathetic, you're hopeless, like straight up. Like, let's see what else you have in the notes. Let me view this one. All right, so now let's go into the keyword of the video. Imagination and attention. Your imagination can accomplish anything based on how well focused your attention is. Achieving your desires, achieving your desired reality. Achieving your desires relies on controlling and concentrating your attention. Attention is honestly one of the greatest gifts that God has ever given to you. But you know how God isn't necessarily the spoon feeding type of person. In fact, I'm not even gonna try and describe like God's ways, because as somebody who lives on the physical plane, I cannot even do that, because I will be limiting him to the physical plane. You get me? I'll be limiting God to this. I can only what's this thing, describe God with these three planes, but then God is transcendent of these planes. God is above all of this. So I don't even know what the fuck I was just saying, but then what I'm saying, I do believe that God gives us a option. God gives us a opportunity to take it or not. You get me? So you can either put your attention in the good things, or you can put your attention in the right things, or you can put your attention in the wrong things, which can either make or break your life for the worst or for the best. And then I already touched through this, but then let's just do it one more time, just for a little bit. Two different types of attention. Attention based from the external forces: money, drugs, cars, physical. If this is where your attention is coming from, then I'm so sorry, buddy, but you're cooked. Do not equate the external to only being negative. Right. Like I said, do not. Okay, you're cooked, but then do not hate it. Do not hate it, because if you hate it, then you will literally block yourself from success. You get me? You literally block yourself from success. If you hate the external, then you'll never receive the external. If you say fuck money, fuck drugs, fuck cars, fuck bitches, fuck money, you're going to be a broke nigga. That's a very conflicting part about it. It's almost like you need to be very subjective. You need to be very like 6, 7 types. Objective attention, worldview. Okay, this is objective attention. Objective attention is basically basically what most people think. That is basically an objective view on life. That is something we would like to avoid. Genuinely go out there and make your own opinion, and then see. I find myself like, let me give an example. Like, there's like 3 Ben 10 series. We don't count the kid reboot, because that shit does not count, bro. There's Ben 10 the original, and then there's Ben 10 Alien Force, and then there's Ben 10 Omnitrix. Ben 10 Omnitrix is low-key my favorite shit, but then just an example. Ben 10 Omnitrix is my favorite shit. I'll be like, Ben 10 is the best, and then you're talking to your friends about Ben 10, but then now your friends are like, listen, this is me, yo bro, 100%, by the way, yo bro, 2%, Ben 10 Omnitrix is the best. And then your friends are like, hell nah, nigga, Ben 10 Omnitrix is the worst. You need to focus on Ben 10 Ultimate Alien Force. You need to focus on Ben 10 Alien Force. You need to focus on Ben 10 the original. That is genuinely what these niggas is doing to you, bro. Ben 10 Omnitrix is the best, nigga. You need to be watching Ben 10 Omnitrix. Obviously, I'm using this as a metaphor for how obviously people will affect your objective reality, if you get what I'm trying to say. But shout out Ben 10 Omnitrix. I'm rewatching that shit. That shit was fire. She was fire, bro. Oh, what else? Okay, now the second type of attention: subjective attention or intuition. We already did touch on subjective attention. Control from the external is less limited. Control from the external is less limited. When you think subjectively, when you think Ben 10 Omniverse is the best, you do not let all these Ultimate Alien. Ultimate Alien is tough. You see, that's the thing. Every single Ben 10 like shit is tough except for the reboot. Like that kid shit is ass. Every single Ben 10 one is tough, but when you rely too much on one of them, the whole thing falls down. Ben 10 Omniverse has everything. You get me? Ben 10 Omniverse has everything. But now, since these ones don't really have all that, you know what I mean? It doesn't mean that they're not tough. Like Ben 10 Ultimate Alien is my childhood. That shit was still tough. But then, it's not everything. It's only 33% of how great Ben 10 Omniverse is. So that's why am I talking about Ben 10? I'm so sorry, bro. I'm so sorry. I'm so subjective attention or intuition. Control from the external is less limited. Control from these people is less limited because you think your conscious beliefs are more subjective thinking. You go more from the intuition. Fuck you. I do what I want. Where am I going? It's based on or influenced by personal feelings, taste, or opinions. Your intuition. Okay. So now, I feel like that is more so the main keyword where you should put your attention. Where you should put your attention is not necessarily for me to say. I guess all I can tell you is where not to put your attention. You get me? Because everybody has their own life. Everybody has their own life. Everybody has their own path. I cannot know. Everybody has their own path. I cannot simply hold your hand and drag you down the path. All I can do is show you the direction, and then you can walk in that path. You get what I'm saying? That's all this channel is meant to do. This channel is meant to simply show you the direction so you can flip and get away from me. So you can flip and get away from this video. You get what I'm saying? What else? Now, I think this is gonna be maybe my favorite part of not my favorite part of the video. Honestly, this is just like little clip notes on understanding how manifesting your desired reality works. There's obviously more information to this, but don't worry. It's there's gonna be way more videos for you to come. Calm down. Like you'll get some. What does neural knowledge say? Calm down. You're gonna get some shit like that. So understanding how manifesting your desired reality works. In order for it to exist physically, it must first exist vibrationally. You get me? In order for it to exist physically, it must first exist vibrationally. Like we said, it always starts off as something mental. You get me? It always starts off as something mental. But what makes up your mental? What makes up your mental is all this bullshit right here. My bad. What makes up your let me not disrespect the map of consciousness. What makes up your mental is basically everything over here. Your God view process. If you're able to think from higher up here, you are able to solidify the vibrational effect. Ultimately, this is damn near directly proportional. Damn near. No, it's not directly proportional, because directly proportional would mean that the more up you are on this graph, the more physically, the more materially rich you are. I feel like that's something I confuse it for when I began my studies of just metaphysics and spirituality as a whole. I feel like that is maybe a place where I looked at it a bit wrong. I saw these two as directly proportional. I saw that if your vibration goes up, then your materialism, that how many material things you have goes up. However, that is not the case. Somebody can be vibrationally secure. Somebody can be the most vibrationally secure world and live off the grid, have no money, no bitches, no shit, and still be the most vibrationally secure type of person. Because, hold on, and then somebody else can have the most money and just be vibrationally low. Some people can have the most money and do the most heinous shit ever, or just feel the most heinous. That's why when a lot of people have money, material things, They be committing suicide and telling people that their life is. What happened to Polo G, bro? Like that nigga Polo G, I won't lie, like that nigga Polo G like fell off, like he was talking about some depressing shit, and then people were confused because you're a rich rapper. Why are you depressed? You have so much money. Why would you be depressed when you have so much money? But then that's the thing, money doesn't tell the full story. Vibration is simply directly proportional to your worldview. Direction is in direction is, like I said, spirituality is not meant to better your life materially. It will, it can, it will, but that's not the point. The point the point of it is for you to change your world view. It's for you to change how you view yourself and how you view frequency, because internally, because listen, this cannot make you feel good. This right here should not determine how good you feel, because at the end of the day, okay, listen, I'll get into that point I was about to say. At the end of the day, it first needs to begin vibrationally. It first needs to begin internally, and then the world will prove it to you. If you subconsciously think that, okay, I'm gonna use money as an example because on the screen. Let me make sure I'm recording, because like I've been yapping for like a minute. I do not want to not be recording. Listen, if you subconsciously think that I have no money, I need to pay all my bills, I'm nothing without money, I need money, or if you subconsciously have a bad, thinking those basically indicates to your subconscious that your view, and not your view, your views and experience, your views and experience ultimately make up your perception. Your views and your experience make up your perception. Your views and experiences indicate that your perception of money is bad because you've never had it. It ruins your lives. Your mother's struggling. You can't go to school. You don't have a job. You're working, 9 to 5 job. Your perception indicates your experiences and view on money indicates that your perception of money is bad. But then the sad part about it is that your perception is directly interconnected to your reality. So if your perception is negative, your reality is obviously going to come out as negative. So once you're able to change your perception, the way you view money, you view money as not, you don't hate it or you don't love it. You view money as something, as a tool. You view money as something to just simply play around it. That's how I view money. I don't view money, when I lose money I don't feel bad. When I gain money I don't feel bad. Well, no. When I lose money I feel the same. When I gain money I feel the same. You get me? It doesn't determine how you feel on the inside. That is where you should ultimately shift your perception of money. But then I guess the main point I want you guys to have is that you do not only need to equate this to money, you can equate this to love. If I'm a girl, and I've been in 5 relationships, all of them I've been cheated on, what is my experience and view on that? My view is that all men are trash, and my experience obviously like reinforces that belief, because like, listen, like all men are trash, I've been cheated on 5 times, right? But then what does that do? Your views and experience ultimately make up your perception, but your perception is directly interconnected to your projection of reality. So if your perception is negative, then your reality will come out negative. So now every single man that you date from there on out will be directly proportional to what your perception is. They will be negative. They will all be trash. You will get cheated on a bunch of times because your perception of men is bad. You get me? That is, you don't only need to equate that to what's this thing? You only need to equate that to money. I'm just using material things to sort of make my example, because I feel like that's where most people would sort of like resonate with my thing. So now that we have this out the way, on earth as it is in heaven, heaven is basically the God mind. Heaven is basically the ultimate consciousness. Once you receive it from God, the world to be able to prove to you. You must first receive it in God for it to manifest physically. If you don't believe in God or some shit, view God as the higher power. You get me? Or your God, whatever religion you are subscribed to. So now, what do you truly desire? What do you truly desire? Like, you could say anything. It could be anything. I'll give you 5 seconds. 1, 2. Okay. If you said any of these, I'm so sorry to tell you, bro. But then you're cooked, bro. This is. I know we all want GTA 6 to come out, but like, bro, chill. That's not what you want. What you desire. You do not desire material things. You desire the feeling you get from attaining it. Let me say this one more time. Why is my shit like doing that? I want no color. Oh nah. Looks better like that. You do not desire material things. You desire the feeling you get from attaining it. See, this is what you desire. You desire spiritual paradigm. You desire the feelings that come when you attain that. You desire the vibrations, the frequency that transpires when you attain these material things. You don't. But then the thing is, humans, we attach. We are attached to these things because of what they bring us. But then we don't know why we are attached. That's a bar. Write that down. Shout out neural knowledge. Let me say it one more time. You do not desire material things. You desire the feeling you get from attaining it. What you desire is frequency. As you said, like I was saying, you desire spiritual paradigm. I'm not even gonna read that. You need to be it before the world proves it to you. This is obviously interconnected to the spiritual plane. Let me touch on this real quick. You need to be it before the world proves it to you. You need to believe. If you don't believe that you're a rich nigga, then you won't be a rich nigga. Essentially. Now, I don't know why this is pointing there. Look, you need to fix that. I've been feeling freaky dicky. You know, 2019 Doja Cat was tough, but she was bad. Big it up for me. I wanna see you again. What you desire is frequency. What you desire is frequency. Now let me restart. You do not desire material things. You desire the feeling you get from attaining material things. What you desire is frequency. So now, what is frequency? Frequency is the energetic signature that expresses itself in our human lives as a particular degree of awareness. Let me say that one more time. Frequency is an energetic signature that expresses itself in our human lives as a particular degree of awareness. Your frequency is the lens through which you see reality. Hence why, if your frequency is, at the more, if your frequency is way down here, then obviously your worldview of reality will be hopeless. Your worldview will be tragic. You'll be anxious. You'll be vengeful. You would just be bad. Like, your worldview will be bad simply because your frequency is all the way down here. So now, why is frequency important? Your frequency is the first step to manifesting your desired reality. Like I said, when it comes to all this spiritual shit, you cannot focus on one of them at the same time, because you will be confused. You cannot focus on one of them at the same time, because you'll be confused, because why is it not working? It's crazy. In this whole video, I haven't really specified what exactly manifestation is. This is honestly very important. Honestly, I need this. See this shit right. This shit right here is honestly very important. Listen, manifestation is internally shifting to a degree to where you are no longer dependent on seeing reality and illusion change. And I did touch on this a little bit. You know, you are not dependent on seeing reality. You are not dependent on seeing reality. Everything you ever known, like the physical plane, you're not dependent on seeing with the physical plane in order in let's read that one more time. You internally shifting. Physical things do not determine how you feel internally. physical things do not Physical things do not determine how you feel internally. Physical things do not determine how you feel internally. That is what I want you guys to take out from this, because physical things are merely just an illusion. You get me? Physical things are merely just an illusion. I know how to change your frequency. If you do not understand how vibration works, then you will be confused. Like I've been saying, if you don't understand how vibration works, you'll be confused. If you don't understand how these things work, you will be confused. You will be confused. But why am I rushing, bro? One planet, 8 billion frequencies. As I said, your frequency is the lens through which you see reality. Not everybody is on the same frequency. I don't even know if there's an actual way you can measure frequency. One thing I like to say is that if you say you're up here, then you're not up here. I feel like once you're here, this is one of those things where it's like where it's like it's above you. Like you can't determine whether you've reached this place. So I just want to let you guys know, once you feel like you've gotten here, you have not. You have not. I feel like the best thing for us is to just constantly crave knowledge. At least when it comes to our human body. That's obviously one of the best things that God has given us. But then, as long as it's not school, oh no, I'm playing. Since frequency is the lens through which you see reality, not everybody has the same frequency. Hence why there's one planet and 8 billion different frequencies. And it's very important to not allow those 8 billion different frequencies to affect your frequency, because everybody has their own paradigms. Everybody is living in their own paradigms. Some people are in a survival paradigm. Some people see life as an apathetic view. Some people hate life. Some people are anxious. Some people are just constantly not in the right place. And since they're in their own frequency, sometimes that can affect people who are simply just trying to grow their frequency or just grow as people. So that's what I want you guys to take from frequency. Now we can get to this shit right here. I think this will be the last thing for the video. How to change frequency. You must understand how vibrations work. You must understand how vibration works. And I'll tell you this right now. Focus on your emotions. Focus on your emotions. I truly believe that if you're not in the right emotional state, if your overall perception, your emotional state, see this overall perception, emotional state, it's all the same thing. If all of this is not in the right place, your perception will simply just your reality will simply just indicate that. Your perception is directly interconnected to your projection of reality. That's a bar. Write that down. Your perception is directly interconnected to your projection of reality. If your perception slash emotional state, perception slash emotional state, if all of this is not if all of this is not in the right place, then your reality will simply just show it to you. View this as the vibration. View this as vibration. View this as vibration. Maybe sometimes just go just read through this. View that as vibrations. How to change your frequency? Simply focus on your emotion. Simply tell yourself that you are not lacking. Simply tell yourself that you have more than you. Simply just be calm. I feel like a lot of people struggle to be calm, and I think maybe I was one of these people. When you're trying to be calm, that's when you're doing all wrong. Imagine trying to be calm. Imagine trying to be calm. Do you know how crazy that sounds? When you're calm, you simply have no worries. Simply sit down and relax. Simply leave the phone. Fill yourself with positive emotions, but at the same time, do not lie to yourself. I feel like sometimes things like words of affirmation, they do not work for some people of this generation because we, obviously we think more objectively. We think more logically. You can look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself all these affirmations. Oh, I'm good, I'm nice, I'm that bitch. But then, like, like deep down in your mind, like, you're not that bitch. Like, you're literally a mess. So focus on your emotions. Your emotions has the most proportion of dictating your reality. You get me? And when I say reality, I just simply mean being in the right states, not having material things. The whole point of this is to shift how you view reality. Okay, spiritual dude, you know what I mean? Okay, spiritual dude. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys have any questions, just hit me up and send your notes in the comments. I'm gonna be asking questions next week. If y'all niggas get that shit wrong, bro, you're gonna fucking, but you leaving my class, but you out. Alright, peace.